History loves to dress romance in velvet and danger. To let lovers lean into rain-lashed windows and empty ballrooms where every glance is a vow. In those stories, the past moves slowly enough for a heartbeat to echo through marble corridors. And sometimes, even when the lovers meet with a spark, the world around them tilts the throne, the dowry, a family oath. A letter unopened in the mail cart. The result feels almost inevitable. A tragedy that lingers like a candle flame in a draft, a memory that refuses to dim. Yet within that inevitability lies something vital. A truth about love that survives even the harsh pull of fate. What makes historical romance so often end in tragedy is not a single misstep, but a long conversation between desire and duty. In centuries past, love was not merely a feeling. It was a negotiation with parents who held the purse strings, with strangers who carried duties that outweighed tenderness, with time itself which moved relentlessly forward and did not pause for private happiness. Lovers, the more the world insisted on order, the more romance learned to bloom in hidden corners behind fanned shadows, beneath coded gestures. In letters that traveled long distances or were never sent at all. When you read stories from the past, you meet couples who are brave not only in love but in endurance. They learn to survive with a temperature of longing that never quite cools. They trade secrets in the quiet hours of night, when the house settles and a clock ticks like a heartbeat that belongs to them alone. The danger they face is not only the moment of passion, but the slow drift of time, how it can erase possibilities the moment they're spoken aloud, or make them impossible to realize because the world around them refuses to give permission. In these tales, class and rank are not abstract ideas. They are the weather outside the window, pressing in on every decision. A musician whose talent could earn him a seat at the court may never be allowed to marry the daughter of a tradesman. A nurse who knows the science of healing with gentian and herbs might be told that her future belongs to a different station. Yet love persists, often in the spaces between public statements and private letters, where a sigh can carry more weight than a proclamation. The first recurring pattern is the tragedy of chosen separation. Think of two souls brought together by chance, only to be torn apart by family alliances or obligations that are dressed in honor. The lovers may have found a way to speak, but institutions step in to say no. The betrothal is announced. The wedding day is marked on the calendar. And yet a rumor or a scandal becomes a wedge that drives them back to separate rooms and separate futures. The romance does not end at a kiss. It ends at a boundary, one that neither the heart nor the world seems willing to cross. Second, there is the quiet tragedy of missed messages. In a world without instant communication, the length of a day can become a fate. A letter carried by a storm, delayed by a ship's loss at sea, delivered to the wrong desk with the wrong seal. A confession written in ink that blurs as it dries. The reader sits with the sting of a promise that has not been kept. And each scene becomes a room where hope turns into regret. And regret into memory that glows when the room grows colder. The beauty of these moments is that they are intimate and precise, a line drawn on parchment, a scent of lavender in a sleeve, a ring that has traveled the world and now belongs to nobody. Third, the collision between desire and illness or war. Historical romance often places the lovers in a battlefield of circumstance. A plague sweeps a city, a fever tightens its grip. A soldier leaves for a campaign that lasts longer than anyone anticipates. The lovers must measure the price of happiness against the long tally of danger. When one partner returns altered physically or emotionally, the relationship must adapt, or it must bend toward rupture. Here tragedy is not a single event but a series of small erosions. A shared future diluted by absence. A decision to protect the other by denying one's own needs. Or a vow broken by the weight of survival. Yet among these losses, a stubborn thread of hope persists. The romance is not only about what ends. It is about what endures, the memory that shapes future choices. The courage to love again after heartbreak. The faith that a bond can survive the long arc of a difficult season. The beauty of tragedy in historical romance lies in the way it invites us to watch love adapt. It asks, can love survive the stringent tests of hierarchy, distance, time, and disaster? Often the answer is yes, because the stories reveal a deeper resilience. They show that love is not just a spark that lights a single moment but a flame that can burn through years of loneliness and change two people forever. Another layer is the moral and emotional education these stories provide to readers. They tend to teach tenderness, how to listen when voices of pride rise, how to choose gentleness over impulsive defiance, how to protect a fragile hope with patient care. The lovers may fail to be together in the end, but the lessons they leave behind can illuminate the lives of readers who carry those same pressures in their own worlds. We learn to trust slow, deliberate forms of intimacy, the light that glows after a private confession, the comfort in a shared silence, the bravery to keep promises that nobody else sees. In that sense, tragedy becomes a kind of schooling in love. It teaches us what to want, what to protect, and what kind of love requires not the perfection of a single moment but the perseverance of a lifetime. There is a fourth motif that holds the ache and also the possibility, the social trap of destiny. When a future is imagined by others rather than chosen by the heart, even happiness can feel like a borrowed dream. The heroine might be celebrated for her wit or kindness, yet the world around her is ready with a verdict that she should be quiet, should be compliant, should yield the room to a more powerful claimant. The hero may be brave, but his courage is measured against the risk of losing his status, his position, or the reputation that sustains the family's standing. And so the romance falters not because the lovers are unworthy, but because the stage on which they perform is rigged to shut them out. The reader senses that every small gesture, the reaching out across a ballroom, the stolen embrace in a garden, the rescue of a letter from a storm, could be the last action that seals their fate. But even within that cruel architecture, the pages insist on a bright core, a belief that love is patient enough to wait for another life, another chance, another line of dialogue that might finally carry them to a shared horizon. Tragedy in historical romance often finishes not with a wedding that never happens, but with a memory that outlives the ruin. It can be the quiet forgiveness between two people who never married, the choice to mother or father a child apart from a partner who cannot stay, the lasting influence of a love story that becomes a whispered legend within a family or a community. A legend can travel farther than a fevered kiss. It can soften anger, soften judgments, and soften the world enough to allow the heart to breathe again. Why does this pattern continue to enchant readers, especially women across ages and backgrounds? Because it offers a unique lens on desire. Desire tempered by conscience, shaped by courage, and refined by the long, ordinary work of living. It reframes happiness not as a sudden fireworks display but as a gradual brightening of the everyday. The lovers may be separated by walls of status or by illness or by a cruel twist of fate, but their longing remains a compass. It points toward a future where kindness and loyalty matter, where we learn to listen with the same intensity we feel when a kiss is finally granted, where the most devastating chapters can still teach us how to love more honestly, more deeply, and more fully than before. So the tragedy does not erase romance, it redefines it. It asks us to witness the complexity of human longing and to hold space for both sorrow and hope. When a historical romance ends not with a triumphal union but with a transformed heart, the reader comes away with a map for their own life. A reminder that love can survive upheaval, that faith can outlive fear, and that a story with a painful ending can still offer a generous invitation to believe in another beginning. If you ever thought that history's grand gestures left little room for tenderness, these tales prove otherwise. Tenderness does not vanish in the face of consequence, it deepens, it clarifies, and it endures. If you are watching this and carrying a quiet ache about love that didn't last, hear this. You are not alone in that ache. And you are not bound to the speed or the shape others expect. Historical romances remind us that there is dignity in waiting, courage in choosing mercy, and beauty in the stubborn, imperfect path toward connection. They invite us to dream again. To hold on to a belief that even a deeply complicated love can leave behind a legacy worth cherishing. And sometimes, the legacy is enough to keep the flame alive in our own hearts until the next chapter begins. So as we turn the page, let us carry forward two ideas. First, that love's worth isn't measured by the exact moment of union but by the integrity with which it's pursued. Second, that even when history sweeps lovers apart, it never fully erases them. Their voices echo in the corridors of our imagination. And in that echo there is a soft, stubborn reassurance: love can be real, and it can endure. And it can teach us how to become braver, kinder versions of ourselves. If you enjoyed this exploration of why historical romance often tilts toward tragedy, subscribe for more journeys through love's seasons: joy, longing, sorrow, and renewal. I'll meet you in the next story, where once again the past invites us to believe in the power